All right, Shalom. Of course, I watched it off by giving all praise unto Yahweh, Bahasham, Yahweh Shai, Yahweh, who the world ignorantly calls God, and Yahweh Shai, who the world ignorantly calls Jesus Christ. And I just want to do a little video. I was listening to a live stream that the Mind of God had a few nights back, and he had an individual called into the show, which I've talked to him before. I've had him on my platform once before. His name is Mike, right? The brother's name is Mike, and as I said, I had him on the platform before. We talk with him. He knows a couple things. I'll give him that, but he clearly goes off. He teaches that you don't have to follow the dietary law and stuff like that. Just some bullshit. But I was listening to the stream that he had with Mind of God on there, and one topic that came up was the whole UFO doctrine, right? The whole teaching of the UFOs, and he was saying that no, well, where does it say UFO in the Bible? Where does it say that Christ is going to return on a UFO in the Bible? He was saying that that's pure madness. And then he said, you're just saying that because these shills on YouTube, teach that. And my question, wait a second, my question is, first of all, what shill is there on YouTube who's teaching that Christ is going to return in UFOs? And hey, look, I've been around the block, right? I've been in this thing for a number of years, man. Right, 7, 8 years, right? That I've been, watching these conspiracy guys, on this platform. I've never seen anybody except for the Hebrew Israelites, teach that the Most High is going to return in UFOs. I've never seen any of these shills, so-called shills, on here that teach that. So my question to you, Mike, is can you name me a shill that's not a Hebrew Israelite that teaches that Christ is going to return in UFOs? Because I've never seen one, right? I've never seen one. And that's from my years of experience watching people. We're anywhere from, Russian vids to Celebrate Truth to The Biggest Reason to TVC Mario to, what is that, Richie from Boston? To, what is that, Truth Unveiled 777? What is that, KJ from the scariest movie ever? Oh, what's that cat? That black dude. What is that, Feed Your Mind? Let's see, who else is out there? Call for an Uprising. I mean, hell, man, you could go on, man. That's just a handful of the people I've watched over the years. Which I really don't watch much of them anymore. You know why? Because the only people I've really found that are really teaching the truth are these Hebrew Israelites, man, starting with the apostles and the elders of Great Millstone. Right, so of course, I have to give, much respect and, double honors to the apostles and to the elders of Great Millstone, right? Much respect is most certainly due to the elders and to the apostles. All right, but going back to what I was saying, man, is, about these whole UFOs, he was saying that, no, well, where does it say UFO in the Bible? And then, further down in the discussion, Mind of God was reading, what is that, Revelation 19th chapter? And they went to the part where it says that Christ returns on a horse. So then Mind of God asked Mike, well, what does this mean? And Mike was like, oh, well, Christ is going to return on an actual horse in the sky. Right? Like a damn, white horse, man. Okay, like a literal living animal is what Mike was saying. And here's the problem I have with that. Here's my question for you, Mike. Listen here. According to, and I put this comment in the comment section 20 times, but LOP is slow reading the comments, right? So he never addressed the question. But I really wanted him to answer this because I really wanted to see this. I really wanted to see his answer for this because he was saying that, well, it says that Christ returns on a white horse. So see, that means it has to be a white horse. But here's my question to him. Is there's other verses that say, was that Revelation 1 verse 7 says what? That he comes on clouds and every eye will see him. That verse says that Christ returns on clouds. If you go to, what is that? Isaiah, the 66th chapter, the 15th verse, it says that the Lord will return with his chariots. Wait a second. There's one verse that says that Christ is going to return on chariots, Another verse that says that Christ is going to return on clouds. And then the third verse is that Christ returns on a white horse. So my question to you, Mike, is what one of these is correct, and how do you discredit the other two? And the answer, if you're going to ask me, the answer is very simple. It's a parable. It's not literal. It's just referring that the Lord's going to return on a UFO. That's what it's talking about. All right, it's not literal. As I said, man, a lot of you Christians, man, which I'll give him credit because he said he wasn't a Christian, right? So I'll give him that. But a lot of you guys, man, you're carnally minded, right? The Bible is a spiritual book, and that's why cats out here, just like I'll give an example, right? Tried and refined. Whereas Elder Apostle Gabar said, they should rename their group, tried, died, and laid to the side is what they should rename their group, man. Right? But they're teaching out there that that great city is Babylon, right? Babylon the Great is the Vatican City. Right? But then they don't understand that that the Bible is a spiritual book. I'll give an example. I had the one cat on the show from the Tried and Refined, and one of his proofs that it's talking about the Vatican, as he went to Revelation the 17th chapter, went to the verse that says that the woman sits on 7 hills, right? 7 mountains. I'll rephrase it myself, 7 mountains. So he used that to say, oh, well, Rome's known as the city on 7 hills. But then I corrected him, because if you go to the verse right under, it says what? That there are 7 kings, right? 5 have fallen, 1 is, and 1 has not yet came. So that proves that the 7 mountains on which the woman sits are talking about nations. And one way to prove that, if you go to Jeremiah chapter 51, verse 25, it says what? It refers to a nation as a mountain. So that proves in the Bible that nations are referred to as mountains, right? Governments or nations are referred to as mountains in the Bible. Okay, so the 7 mountains on which the woman sits represent 7 kingdoms that existed throughout the history of the world, leading up to the time we're in right now. It's not talking about the 7 hills of Rome. That's not what it's talking about. But that's why, these certain scriptures were put there to be stumbling blocks. I'll give an example. If you go to, Revelation 17 and verse 1, it says what? At the horse sits upon many waters. You ask somebody, well, what is that water? What's that water represent? Because I had one dialogue with Rock Upon him a few years back. It's not on YouTube anymore. But I asked him that question, and he was saying that there's a lot of water fountains in the Vatican City. Right? There's a lot of, water, rivers, and fountains in the Vatican City. So that proves it's the Vatican. Well, wait a second. If you go to verse 15, it says that the water that you've seen represents peoples, multitudes, and nations and tongues. So it's not talking about real water, according to the scriptures. It's a parable, so you can't understand it. That's why Christ said, it's given to you to know the mystery of the kingdom, right? But to every man it's not given. But going back to what I was saying, right? Sometimes you got to let the spirit flow, bring out what it wants. As far as the image on the screen here, this is a card taken from the Illuminati card game. Look that up on Google if you don't know what that is. Excuse that background noise if you hear that. Let's see, it says Church of Middle America. And then in the description, the card says, they'll never get it, even when the saucers are flying overhead. Right, and in this card game, man, which I can't go into detail, but everything that we're seeing going on in the world right now, as far as this this whole situation, I gotta watch the words I use. But this is in the Illuminati card game, man. They literally have a card that says this. Look it up, man. Right, I'm not making this up. This is real. Go look it up. This was made back in 1996, I believe. All right. You have everything from 9/11. There's Flat Earth in there. The Boston bombings card. You have a World War III card in there. All right. I mean, just so much in there, man. Okay. You just got to take some time and look into it. Let me see. Oh, and it's a real card game, by the way. You can buy a pack on eBay. look that up. But going back to Mike, no, you're sitting there saying that UFOs are not in the Bible. Well, wait a second. They are in there. Now, the word UFO is not in the Bible. You know why? Because in the Bible, they're not referred to as UFOs. In the Bible, they're referred to as whirlwinds, or wheels within wheels, or as chariots. That's what they're referred to as in the Bible. But we call them UFOs. You know why? Because that's what people in the world call them, right? So in order to make them understand what we're saying, we have to use their names they give them. For an example, if we're talking about Yahushai, right, we might mention Jesus sometimes, right? That Jesus says this, right? Jesus says that. We know the name Yahushai, but to get into the people's minds, we might have to use those keywords that they understand, right? Because if we're out there saying Yahweh and Yahushai all the time, they might think, oh, well, they're talking some type of, Indian god or something like that. But if we use the word Jesus, they might say, oh, well, they're talking about the Bible then, right? Then further down, we can educate them on the real name, right? But sometimes when we're having a discussion with somebody, we might say, oh, well, Jesus says this, right? Jesus says that, right? Even though we know the real name's Yahweh and Yahushai, we might use those keywords so they understand who we're talking about, right? From their understanding. So the same thing with UFOs, is we know that they're not called UFOs in the scriptures, but we use that because that's what people in the world call them, so they understand what we're talking about. You understand? I'll give another example. The word dinosaur is not in the scriptures. You know why? Because the word dinosaur was invented in the 1800s. But dinosaurs are mentioned in the scriptures. They're referred to as dragons, right? Just the word dragon just means a big lizard, right? That's what dinosaurs are. So dinosaurs are in the scriptures, but you're not going to see the word used in there because the word did not exist at that time period. So that's why it's not going to be in there. You understand? So as I said, this is why it's difficult for some people to understand. Oh, another thing as well, the word America is not in the Bible. We know America is spoken of in the Bible, but it doesn't use the word America in the scriptures, though, right? But we know it's spoken of in it, but it doesn't exactly use its name. Why? Because it's not for everyone to know. But this is only for a handful of people to understand, man. And as I said, going back to what Christ said, it's not given to every man to know the mysteries of the kingdom, right? But unto certain men, certain understanding is given. Okay, that's just, the way you have to look at things, man. Okay, this isn't for everybody to know about, man. Because if you look at these truthers, right, these so-called truther channels, man, if you ask them about these, about these UFOs, I guarantee you, I want to say 90%, maybe 80 or 90% of them will say there's some type of they're either some type of government, operation, or some type of, demonic entities is what they'll tell you. And I know because I've asked some of them, right? The only exception I've seen would be Eric Dubé, which I like his books, by the way, just to put that out there. Even though he's going off, because he's talking about that, what is that? That he himself is God or something like that. So he's clearly going off. But, I'll give him credit. He's right on certain things. I will give him that. But then he's also going off because he said that in the one book he has that I read, right, was it The Flat Earth Conspiracy? It was a very good book. Recommend you give it a read. But he mentioned in the book, he has a whole chapter dedicated to it, where he was saying that dinosaurs never existed, which is clearly nonsense. Clearly isn't true, because what about the the Inca stones? Well, what about the Inca stones? What about these cave drawings that we have that are 1,000 years old that show men and dinosaurs on them? So you see, the real thing is they have the people deceived. The dinosaurs did exist, but not in the time period that they say they did. Okay, so you guys out here talking about that nonsense, you're going off. I remember I was on what was it? I was on a live stream with 2-letter J, right? You guys might know him as Sacramento Truth Movement, right? He comes around the channel sometimes. But I was on his channel for a live stream he did, And we were talking about, you know, these dinosaurs. They asked him, hey, man, you ever heard of those people that teach that dinosaurs never existed? And we were talking about it, right, giving our beliefs and opinions on why we believe they did exist, which we and him both agreed they did. But then there was a lady in the chat who was listening to us talk, and she was like, oh, well, they never existed. So we put a link in the chat, and she joined the show, and we were having a conversation. And she was saying, oh, well, I don't think they ever existed. So I was like, okay, so you're telling me that the Illuminati went around the earth and put dinosaur bones in the ground so people can dig them up? She didn't want to address that. I asked her, okay, then what about these right, the what is it, the Inca stones, right, the Inca stones that show what is it, man and dinosaur, you know, on the stones. And these stones are like 1,000 years old. You can look into them. And there's so many others, man. You have temple depictions that clearly show dinosaurs on them, man. Okay. And what about the stories throughout history of, you know, knights versing these they call them dragons, right? Big lizards. What about those? Are all of those fake? I mean, come on. Oh, and then what about the Bible? If you go to what is that, Job, the 40th chapter? It speaks about a creature called the behemoth, right? But if you read the description, the only animal capable of fitting the description is what you will call a sauropod dinosaur. And that was written, what was it, like, may I say, what, like 3,000 years ago, I believe, 4,000 years ago? Not the best with numbers, but it was a long ass time ago, man. But not 65 million years. God, no. But I mean, it proves the point, man. Right? It proves the point. You know, bear with me a second. As I said, you know, guys are just sitting there giving their own opinion on things. That's all they're doing. But then when the evidence comes out, you know, it clearly speaks for itself. Okay? It clearly speaks for itself. All right, so these guys out here talking about these, you know, oh, but UFOs are not in the Bible. And that's what, going back to who I quoted earlier, right, Tried and Refined, right, the group out there calls themselves Tried and Refined. They teach that UFOs are not in the Bible. That's what they teach. Then you ask them, okay, well, what about, like how do you know it they're not in the scriptures? And they don't know. They're just saying, oh, but that's what you were taught by GMS, so that's why you believe that. It's like, no, I've actually looked into it. So that's why I can say what I say, right? Look, I can so boldly proclaim what I so boldly proclaim because I actually look into things, right? I don't just give my opinion on it. I look into it, so that's therefore I can make a proper, informed statement on the matter. Let's give an example. Let me see. Oh, I'll give an example. I'll give a good example. We had Tried and Refined on the show, and we asked them about what is that? Amos the 9th chapter, right? Amos 9 verse 2 1 down, and they said that happened already. And what does the text says? It says, though they be hid from my sight at the top of Carmel, you know, we'll hunt them, and though they be hid from my sight at the bottom of the sea, you know, we'll hunt them out, or we'll fish them out. Nearly paraphrasing the text. But the point is, I asked him, because he said it already happened back then, you know, 2,000 years ago. Well, wait a second, it had to be further back than that, because that's in the Old Testament. Right? That's in the Old Testament. So that would have had to you know, been a long, long time ago, man, before the New Testament. So that had to have happened back then, according to them, which my understanding is it hasn't happened yet. And the reason why is it says that they be hid from my sight at the bottom of the sea. Now we'll hunt them out. But wait a second, how the hell could people be at the bottom of the sea thousands of years ago? If what was it? What's that character? Was it Jacques Cousteau, I believe? Jacques Cousteau, look him up. He created you know, scuba gear. What was it, the 1900s, right? Mid 1900s, I believe. As I said, you can look him up, right? You can look him up. Right, but Jacques Cousteau didn't invent that back, you know, 2,000 years ago. So how the hell were people hiding at the bottom of the sea 2,000 some years ago? Or even further than that, because the Old Testament's further than 2,000 years, man. We'll say 3,000 years ago. How the hell were people hiding at the bottom of the sea 3,000 years ago. Don't make any damn sense, man. Okay, you ask them about it, they don't know. You know what I'm saying? So that's just a clear, example of what I'm trying to say. But anyway, I just wanted to, share some, thoughts on that matter. Kind of went all over the place, but, it's still, edifying at the end of the day. If anybody made it this far to the end of the video, go ahead and put hashtag UFO at the bottom of the video, and I'll say shalom.